So now I'd like to demo some more advanced uses of Alera and some more advanced features. First, I want to go over the Alera API. So the Alera API is a HTTP REST API that allows you to put in signals programmatically and have them executed immediately. So as soon as they reach the software. The idea behind this is to allow a lot of flexibility for users in how they want to implement their system, and also kind of remove the need for a scheduler if somebody wants to instantaneously put their orders through. So so here you can see a PowerShell window. So if you don't know what this is, that's okay. What this is, it's a piece of code that connects to the Alera API and input signals. So you can write something similar to this if you want, in a different language, or you can incorporate the same ideas in a Python script that runs your strategy for you. So this is just my interface to it that I will show you. So I guess the first use case I want to go over that's more complicated than something that I showed you before would be the idea of being able to enter positions in the morning using a limit order and exiting all your positions at market on close. So there's the two caveats to this kind of strategy is one, since you want market on close orders, they have to be placed before 3:45 p.m. And number two, since you're placing a limit order to enter the position, you only want to place the market orders if a limit order went through. But this also means that since the market orders have to be placed before 3:45 p.m., you have to actually cancel those limit orders before 3:45 p.m. so that it makes sense. And in order to achieve this, we have a few different features in Alera that will allow you to do something like this. So let me demo the first one. So we can type in RSN Google, and we'll see ID 10. So RSN is an order type that stands for reset to neutral, and it lets us automatically put an order to close the position once we have a position for that ticker. So in this case, we have RSN for Google, and then we tell it that we want to place an order for market on close, and we provide an ID because for certain order types, we need IDs to prevent order duplication. So we write that, we click enter, and then we see here in our portfolio that we're neutral Google right now, but we have an order to RSN for MOC. Great. So the next step is to actually put a limit order for Google. So right now we will put this limit order, and I will explain what's going on in a second. Okay, so what we see here is buy to open Google limit 1300. So the current price of Google is about 1500. So this limit order won't trigger. But the idea is that if you do put a limit order that may or may not trigger, you don't know if it's going to trigger. So you can put it in the market, but we want to cancel it at 3:40 p.m. So what this says here, GTD stands for the time in force, and it's good until date. So it's good until the date of 2020-07-28, which is today, July 28th, until 3:40 p.m. EST. So we enter that in, and then now we have an order here entered into the market. This order won't go through, but to simulate it going through, I can just type in buy to open Google market. So this will automatically replace the existing order with a market order and run that in. And now you see that the RSN order here is actually going to disappear, and now it actually converts to a sell order. So on MOC. So we bought 10 positions of Google or 10 shares, and now we're going to sell those 10 shares market on close. So yeah, it's actually pretty simple in the end, and these kind of order types allow you to be able to process your signals once in the morning and set yourself up for the entire day to exit all your positions when the market closes. Okay, so next I want to show you some I guess other features which are related to hedging and kind of allocating cash. So these are kind of less commonly used, but they are interesting, and it is worth showing. So first, let's open two positions. So we'll go $10,000 long in Apple. So that will buy 26 shares of Apple. And then we'll go 50 shares long of IBM. Okay. And now in total, we have 15,000 plus about 10,000 plus about 6,000 So that's going to be $31,000 in total exposure that we are long. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to place a order. So I'll explain this in 1 second. Okay, so HWE stands for hedge with exposure. And SH is going to be the ProShares short SPX ETF. So, or short S&P 500. So the idea is that what's happening here is hedge with exposure means that we're taking our current exposure, which is $31,000, and we're hedging SH with it. So that means we're going to go long SH because we're long currently $31,000, and we're going to go 50% of that. So that means we expect to be about $15,500 long once we run this order. So let's do that. And now we will see we're $15,601 long. So that's one way you can hedge. So the advantage of this is that it basically lets you take your current exposure and apply some kind of, and buy or sell some other ticker to kind of hedge with it. So the next thing that someone might be interested in doing is allocating their excess cash. So what we provided is a unit type called percent cash. So we can go long TLT 50% cash. So what this will do is it'll let us allocate 50% of our free cash to TLT. So what that means is that it's going to take whatever free cash we have, and excuse me. So TLT is basically a bond ETF. So what we're going to do is if we go 50% cash, we're going to allocate 50% of our remaining cash to TLT. So let's run that, and then it'll go and do that. And then how is remaining cash calculated? Well, here we had $46,000 worth of long exposure, and if we go here, we were about $46,000. We have $76,000 in the portfolio, $30,000 left over. 50% of cash is going to be $15,000. So that's why we see about $15,000 here, approximately. Okay, great. So that covers that. And now I want to demo some other stuff. So let me go and actually close these positions. Okay. And now I'm going to demo actually going short. So someone might want to go short. In this case, we'll demo something simple. So we can go short Apple 100 shares. So what that's going to do is it's going to take our Apple position and make us short 100 shares. Simple enough. And now suppose we go long IBM again. And we want to close our position in IBM. So one thing we can do is we can use different kinds of order types. So for example, we can use a stop limit order. So in this case, the stop limit order has a stop price of 100 and a limit price of 95. So we can place that order and it'll show up here. And now suppose we want to change our limit price to 105, we can enter that and now it'll jump to 105 over here. Great. And the last thing I want to demo now is the, another kind of feature. Now suppose you want to increase your position. So you have your position size could be something and you want to increase it by 50% for whatever reason. And this is generally best used by signal providers. So suppose you're getting your signals from someone who doesn't know what your portfolio size might be. They might say, oh, well, let's go long this position an extra 50%. So what we can do is we can go here, we can type in add to long Google 50% position ID 11 MRC. So what this is doing essentially is it's saying add to long. So it's adding to your long position in Google by 50% of what you already own. So if we already own 10 shares and I'm buying 5 more shares, which would bring me up to 15 shares of Google. And the reason that we need, and it's an MLC order, so that's why you still see it here, because it's marked on close, so it hasn't been executed yet. And the ID is necessary because if you place this order twice by accident, you're going to buy twice as many shares as you want. So the ID is there to prevent duplication. Okay, next I want to demo the risk manager. So if we go back to our settings, we can enable stop loss orders, so say 5%. And then within the next 10 seconds, we are going to see an order to sell our Google shares. So what this is going to do is the risk manager is a way to manage our manage stop and target orders. So if we lose a lot of money or if we make a lot of money and we want to make sure that we exit or automatically exit positions without having to manually put orders in, this is what APM can do, and this is one of the advanced options. So in this case, what we're basically doing is I put a stop order for 5%. So what it's doing is it puts a stop order in the market, and it puts it for 5% below the current price, and it's going to sell all 10 shares. Now, one cool thing is that if this order were to execute, for example, so let's change our position size in Google. So let's go long 15. Let's go long Google 15 shares, like that. Okay, so if we do that, what's going to happen is that our position will change. So it became 15. But now you'll notice that we're actually going to be selling 15 shares once the risk manager gets a chance to do the update. So give it a few seconds. Great. So now it changed to 15. And now suppose we want to go long Google 10 shares, and then let's put a limit price so that it doesn't execute but it shows up in the market. I made a spelling mistake here. Great. So we have our sell order. Okay, so it's not accepting it. Right. So that actually would have executed immediately. Let's see what happened here. So I actually do not think that, yeah, so IB did not accept the order. So let's go back, and actually, since we're selling shares, I should actually be putting a higher number than the current price. So maybe something like 1,600. There we go. So now it showed up. And the reason I think IB didn't accept the previous order was because the price was a little bit too far off the current price. But anyways, so now what you'll see is that since we're selling 5 shares here, and this may or may not go through, the risk manager actually adjusted our stop order back to 10 shares. So the idea here is that since we know that those 5 shares may or may not go through, we don't want to accidentally leave this at 15 shares, because if this executes but this doesn't, then we'll be at a position where we have no shares, but we have an order to sell 5, and then we might actually go short if this limit order happens to execute. So what the risk manager does, it automatically adjusts our position to kind of make our position 0 if all other orders execute, because they're kind of assumed to execute at some point in the future. And then if we cancel this order, then this number will be adjusted back to 15.